Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to listen to some more information about the new music guidelines. Why are things changing? We have been monitoring very carefully the music industry, and we did see that there were cheer and dance team music editors that were being sued by record labels for violating copyright law. The music companies were beginning to get very aggressive, and as in everything that we do at Varsity Spirit, we wanted to protect cheer and dance teams and their coaches and help them comply with, understand, and reduce their exposure under U.S. copyright law. We are always supporting the arts, and these copyright laws are designed to protect and promote creativity of artists. Artists of all kinds must be compensated for their creations. Without these copyright laws, there would be little incentive for artists to create things such as songs, movies, TV shows, and video games. Under U.S. copyright law, the artist and creator is granted a bundle of rights, which means the exclusive rights to copy their work, distribute their work, perform that work publicly, make modifications and new versions or other uses of that song, such as remixes and mashups. It is illegal to make use of any of this bundle of rights without permission, or also called a license from the owner of the copyright. Permission from both the record label and the music publisher is usually required. There are limited exceptions in reasonable cases of fair use, such as when you hear music in things like news reporting, commentary, or criticism. The copyright owner might recover up to $150,000 for each infringement, meaning up to $150,000 for each piece of music utilized in a routine. Purchasing a legal copy of a song, for example, from iTunes or Amazon Download or buying a CD in a store, does not mean that the purchaser acquires that bundle of rights that's necessary to do all of those things to the song. The purchase only grants the user their private, personal use of the music and not the right to make additional copies or mix that song with other songs for any purpose. Important rules for music moving forward. Do not download songs from illegal sites. Do not copy or distribute to others a recording even if you yourself have legally purchased it, because remember, that's for private and personal use. Do not use mashups created by you or sold by unauthorized providers in your routines. In just a few moments, we'll talk about providers that are preferred by Varsity to help you with your music needs. Let's use this glossary to review some of the terms that you'll hear throughout the presentation. First up is a cover. This is a new recording of a previously recorded commercially released song by someone other than the original artist. For example, a cover artist will go into the studio and record a current song, maybe something that you hear on the radio right now. This would be a cover. An original recording is just that. It's original. Original composition, never been heard before, never created, and never recorded. It does not include any samples or snippets from any other composition. It's an original recording of an original composition, never before created. A music provider. This is going to be someone that will create the cover recordings and/or original recordings. These will be listed on our preferred provider list that you'll hear more about in just a few minutes. A music editor is someone that provides the service of acquiring the rights to the recordings, using sound effects and voiceovers, and makes an edited mix. Next up is the single song. This is going to be a legally purchased copy of a recording that can be edited for timing purposes only. For example, removing a chorus or a bridge to fit the duration of the performance, but may not be remixed in any way. For example, you may not add sound effects, change the tempo, or mix with any other recordings. This may also include the audio recording from a legally purchased music video. How will you know if a music provider is following these new music guidelines? To help our customers navigate these new requirements, we've reached out to many current music providers across the country and have created a preferred provider list for you. This preferred provider list has over 80 companies listed to help you with all of these new requirements and to get your music created that sounds great. As they submitted the appropriate documents, it was certified that they were following USA Cheer Music guidelines, and then they were added to our preferred provider list. This list can be found on varsity.com/music and will continuously be updated as new vendors are confirmed. If a preferred provider is not following the guidelines at any point, they will be removed from the list. Let's talk about the types of preferred providers that you'll find on our list. First up will be companies that provide cover music with the proper licensing to be able to edit those recordings as needed. Many will provide single purchase and package purchase options for you of their recordings, and they'll come with the proper licensing to be edited by you or your music editor. Some preferred providers may also offer original recordings and/or editing services, so be careful to check their websites. Original recordings will come next, and some preferred providers may offer full original mixes made specifically for your team with music that they create and own. Another question that we receive quite often is, do editors need to be preferred providers? Again, an editor is the person that is mixing your music together. This could mean that you're mixing your own music together and you're considered the editor. Editors do not need to be preferred providers. Coaches and teams may only edit their music or use an editor to edit original recordings or cover music purchased from a preferred provider. Coaches and teams that choose the route of obtaining written permission to edit music from the recording companies and all their publishers may also edit or use an editor to edit the music that they purchased. Additionally, coaches and teams and editors should only incorporate sound effects and voiceovers that they create on their own or that are properly licensed. If you know or currently work with someone that would like to be a preferred music provider, please have them email info@usacheer.net or dancemusic@varsity.com. When do your teams need to adhere to these guidelines? They do apply immediately, and this applies at any time the music is not being used for personal use. This includes camps, competitions, school performances, and community performances. Now let's move into talking about your options. Option 1, the simplest of all options, is the single song. If teams and coaches wish to only use a single song as the music for their entire routine, they may bring a legally purchased copy of that recording to be used at the applicable event. A legally purchased copy would be something from iTunes or Amazon. This may also include the audio recording from a legally purchased music video or recordings from past Varsity Spirit camp music CDs that you already own. Teams may not remix these recordings in any way, such as adding sound effects, changing the tempo, or mixing it with any other recordings. But you may make minor edits for timing purposes only, such as removing a chorus or a bridge to fit the duration of the team's performance. You can look at this like the alphabet blocks we all used when we were younger. Block A, B, C, D, and E, sitting beside each other, represent the sections of the song, such as the intro, the chorus, or the bridge. You could remove Block A and begin with Block B. If you don't like Block C, you can move it out and slide Blocks B and D together. B, D, and E would then be your performance routine, but you cannot weave them together or add sound effects, and you can't change the tempo. So for additional clarification, you can edit for timing purposes, but the recording needs to remain in the original order, and you cannot use more than one recording per track. Option 2 is cover music. Cover music must be obtained from a preferred provider who will give you the rights to edit those cover recordings purchased from them. When you purchase music from one of these music providers, you may also be getting the rights to edit the recordings with others from the same provider. There is no limit on the number of recordings you can edit together. You should confirm with your provider as to whether or not their recordings can be edited with recordings from other providers. So if you choose 2 songs from provider A and 2 songs from provider B, you would need confirmation in writing from both providers that their music can be mixed together. Covers may only come from a preferred cover music provider. Option 3 would be going with original recordings. An original recording must be obtained from a preferred provider. The only exception, some that would not need to be on the preferred provider list, would be an original recording by a non-commercial music provider, an individual who does not operate a business or is not engaged in the business of creating music, because if they were in that business, they should be on the preferred provider list. If they are not in that business and they create an original recording for you, they do not need to be on the preferred provider list. Should you choose going this option of having an original recording for your routine, and if your team is featured in a television broadcast, your routine music may be used as long as the synchronization rights are also secured from that original music provider. The next option is permission and payment to publishers and record labels. This option is the more uncertain and difficult of all the options we've presented. To use popular music as a part of a remix, teams must get the appropriate permissions to edit the recording and the underlying composition or song. Teams must get permission not only from all the music publishers, but from the record label as well. This permission should be a specific request to edit or remix, and not just permission to use the recording or song as a part of your performance. While this is an option, we need to caution you that this can be time-consuming and expensive, as you might not get approvals from these groups in time for your performance, which could force last-minute changes. Written consent is required, and emails with permission from an authorized representative of each applicable owner is sufficient. Next up is a note about fight songs and band music. If you're attending a camp or competition and would like to perform your school's original fight song, you may bring a recording of your marching band playing that song. You'll need to get the school's permission to use the song in the recording. A letter granting permission for the cheer or dance team to use the fight song on school letterhead is sufficient. It should be signed by the principal or other school official. If you'd like to perform to a recording of your band playing a single musical composition, you'll need to provide documentation that confirms the following. First, that the team has secured a compulsory license to make copies of the recording made by the band or orchestra. Next, the band or orchestra recorded the song for and in conjunction with the cheer and dance squad. The school principal or dean was aware of and approved this recording. The band or orchestra does not provide music to other cheer or dance squads. And lastly, that no other musical compositions are embodied in the recording to be used by the authorized cheer or dance squad. If you need another option to find marching band music, you can use a legally acquired recording of a band playing a recording from an authorized provider, such as iTunes or Amazon. Like the single song option, this can be used as long as no edits are made to the music, other than for timing purposes. What will coaches need to bring to camp and competition? Coaches will be required to provide proof of licensing at registration, proof of purchase from a preferred provider, or, if using a single song, a receipt from the purchase of that single song, or, if using an editor, the editor does not have to be a preferred provider. However, they must be able to provide you with proof of purchase from a preferred provider and proof of licensing for all sound effects and voiceovers included in the mix. Or, if using a non-commercial music provider, you'll need documentation that assigns all the applicable rights to the team. Contact info@usacheer.net or dancemusic@varsity.com to request the appropriate documentation. Can we use sound effects in our music? Yes, of course, as long as you've purchased all the rights to the sound effect, either on a website or you've paid someone to create it and they've licensed the rights to you in a written agreement. If you're using an editor, you must provide proof of purchase from a preferred provider for the music, and proof of licensing for all sound effects and voiceovers included in the mix. Sound effects are not allowed on the single song option that has been edited for timing purposes. That's where you take one song, move the building blocks together, but you may not use sound effects in those. We do get this question quite often. Can Varsity Spirit secure the rights to the songs and charge the coaches a fee? Varsity Spirit already does purchase a public performance license for all of our music at camps and competitions. However, there is no blanket license available that permits editing recordings with other recordings. Only the group or individual that edits or mixes that music can obtain that permission, and the permission is granted only on a case-by-case basis. That group or individual should secure licenses and permissions to edit the recordings used together in their routine. How can Varsity Spirit live stream performances? We will continue to obtain the public performance licenses we just spoke about wherever our events are held, as well as for the live streams. It's important to understand that the new music guidelines are not related to the live streams or the television shows. Even if Varsity Spirit didn't air the shows on ESPN or other television channels or the live streams, the new music guidelines would still be in place. Please be extremely cautious of other event producers that are offering events that do not follow these guidelines, as they're putting coaches, teams, and even themselves at risk for damages for copyright infringement of up to $150,000 per infringement. If you have any additional questions, please contact your state director or all-star advisor, or send questions via email to info@usacheer.net or dancemusic@varsity.com. And again, this information is meant to provide further insight on our new music guidelines, which are based on U.S. copyright law. However, this information, as well as our music guidelines, should not be construed as legal advice. If you have specific questions or concerns related to copyright laws, we encourage you to speak directly with a music or copyright attorney. Thank you so much for taking the time to educate yourself on the new music guidelines. We hope that the information provided, as well as the preferred provider list, will be everything you need to have a fantastic camp and competition season. Good luck.